Hello, hi, howdy ho, and welcome to Cast That Movie, the podcast where two nobodies from the Midwest recast a failed cinematic project from the past, as well as an original product they would like to see made. Oh, good times, right? Anyway, I am Joad McDougall, and joining me, as always, is the Jean-Claude to my Van Damme, Mr. Tom Van Horton. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Joe. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing swell.
Good. I'm going to apologize for my voice. I don't know what's going on. I've been losing it the last couple days, so just bear with me if I sound a little pitchy today. I apologize.
It's a little pitchy, dog.
It's a little pitchy, dog.
A little pitchy, dog. No, that's fine. We'll power through it. We're sportsmen here, or whatever. We're gamers. We're gamers. We're gamers.
We're gamers. We're gamers.
Yes. We'll make it through. We'll make it through. Well, we got kind of a special episode here today. Usually, as has been our tradition, the recast and the original project do not overlap. That is not the case today, is it, Tom?
It is not the case today. I'm going to pull back to Kurt a little bit. We don't normally talk a whole lot about the projects. I like to kind of get a lot of the information, throw it at Joad during the show to get his reaction. This was something special. And when I started kind of explaining, this is a major shit show. I had 10 pages of notes at one point, and I was warning, Joad about that. And so it was decided that we were going to do both. After kind of discussing a little bit about what went on, we decided we were going to do both the recast and the Dream Project about the movie.
And the movie that we are undertaking this ginormous task for is none other than 1996's The Island of Dr. Moreau.
The Island of Dr. Moreau, not to be confused with the 1977 version. This is the 1996 Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, fuck all.
Yes, and that distinction is important for two reasons. First off, because that is the recast that we're going to be doing. I mean, we have done a recast on projects that had more than one iteration before, such as very famously 1984's Dune versus the remake that had been done, the made-for-TV, and then, of course, they're working on one as we speak. From Denis Villeneuve. So in this case, it's super important, not just because, that's the movie we're recasting and re-envisioning, but also because the story of how that movie came to be specifically is the inspiration for an original project that we would like to see made. Why don't you give them just a little bit of a teaser, Tom?
Oh, boy. Okay, I'm trying to think of where to start on our teaser because I really thought about this. Let's discuss, we're going to go backwards a little bit, I think. We're really going to discuss kind of at the end of the movie what happens. So by the end, Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer are casted, and Frankenheimer is the final director. Mm. And by the point of this, where we are right now, the proposed budget for the movie was $40 million. They are now at $70 million. This is within the first week of filming. It has gone completely out of control. And the movie itself was... If you're familiar with the H.G. Wells books, a lot of people didn't like the changes that were made here. It kind of glossed over some of the tone, some of the storyline. Something we talked about previously in other podcasts about kind of sci-fi is that the main tone is, are we going too far? Again, people really worry a lot about, are we going too far? That's kind of the vibe of what you're going on with it. And that's really lost, especially when you watch the ending of this and kind of what happens and where it goes. It just kind of stops and the book really kind of continues. And there's also always a vibe of, usually in good sci-fi, when you're making a point, I should say, or at least I should say in historical or classical sci-fi, that at the end, people are really the monsters. And that's kind of touched upon a little bit. But yeah, this was, let me put it this way. By the end of it, it was nominated for 6 Razzies.
Nice.
If you're familiar with what the Razzies are, we talked a little bit about them. You have your Oscars, and then during the Oscar seasons, you have the Razzies, which are movies that were the worst movies for that year. For this year, it was nominated for 6 Razzies, including Worst Director, Worst Picture, Worst Supporting Actor for Marlon Brando. Val Kilmer was also nominated for the same part. And at the 1996 Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, Marlon Brando was nominated for Worst On-Screen Hairstyle, but he lost to Stephen Baldwin in Biodome.
The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Now, that's not to say all was bad. I will give the movie some credit. It did get Best Makeup and Best Science Fiction Film for the Saturn Awards in 1996.
Okay. Anyway, so the original project then, we're not going to go too into detail. We want to save that for later. But let's just say it's going to be the process of bringing this atrocity to life. And it's going to feature some A-list talent that many of us, myself included, had no idea were involved in the story. So we'll kind of leave it there on that. We should probably, I think we glossed over this segment last episode, but do you have any corrections? We're usually pretty good about corrections on this show because we are very aware that we are very imperfect. Do you have anything?
For that last one, yes, the Pink Floyd, yes, I do, and I actually commented on our Cast That Movie page. I do have a correction on that. So I had talked about how they had done The Body and how you could hear that on Dark Side of the Moon, which was an undone album. I was wrong on that. So what had happened was, and I knew this, and I don't know why I didn't get it straight. A lot of times we're going at this and we're throwing out a lot of information. I'm just shooting off synapses in my brain. But The Body was a piece of work that Roger Waters did with another artist, and on one of the songs, it is Pink Floyd's Foley on it as a collective unit. But The Body was basically a concept album about songs about body parts, about the entire body. And you'll hear that, like the first one is like burps and belches and farts and things like that. It's a really interesting album. Then they started working on Household Noises, which was an album about making music out of everyday objects. And they started on that. And then they decided to go into Wish You Were Here. And on Shine On You Crazy Diamond, if you pull away some of the stuff, you can actually hear some of the tracks and layers that they ended up using from that Household Noise on Shine On You Crazy Diamond. So yes, that is a correction I have.
How dare you? I'm just kidding. No, that's some deep nerd stuff right there. But yeah, we keep ourselves honest. I have a correction for myself, actually.
Okay.
And when we were recasting Ballistic X versus Sever, I kind of hammered you a little bit for whitewashing the role of Sever, the Lucy Liu role. And I was all, Mr. woke and proud of myself that I also happened to cast an Asian American for that role. And then I made the comment, the one minority part that we are recasting, and you whitewash it or something to that effect. Well, in reality, I didn't even think of the fact that Antonio Banderas is not a white man, and I gave his role to Ben Stiller. So, yeah, little bit of egg on my face there, but yeah. So that's my big correction from the last episode. And as always, we encourage people to go back and listen to our previous episodes and point out any glaring errors that we made, because we may not even catch them all, to be quite honest.
Yes. You know what? I will fault myself on that one as well. I should have called you on that one, and I didn't. And that's, you know what? It's
Yeah,
all
but
right.
you were reeling from my calling you out for whitewashing. You're to be forgiven. I was the one on the pedestal, or put myself on this pedestal, and in reality, I was just as guilty. So that's a bad Joad. That's a bad Joad.
Well, and I'm gonna make, you know what? I'm gonna come to your defense on this, okay? And I'm gonna say what I
Please
said
do.
during that podcast. Lucy Luna and Antonio Banderas were like the fucking fifth or sixth, seventh, eighth choice for those roles. They were
Mhm.
originally supposed to go to two other actors. It was supposed to be The Professional versus The Killer. It was supposed to be Chow Yun Fat and um,
Jean Reno.
Jean Reno. But at one point, they even wanted it to be Sylvester Stallone and Vin Diesel.
Mhm.
So again, it was one of those things where knowing what we knew about it, that's why I wasn't too, and that's what I came to my defense on originally was Lucy Liu wasn't supposed to be original, and to your defense, Antonio Banderas was not supposed to be original. So I don't think there's any kind of whitewashing in that regards. Now, if we were going to redo something amazing like, say, um, um, Kung Fu Hustle for whatever reason, and then we completely
Mhm.
whitewash that, okay, now we can get called out on that. But again, Lucy Liu and Antonio Banderas were chosen because they were cheap, and Franchise Picture was trying to embezzle during the
Yeah.
project. So yeah, I'm not going to harp you on that.
Well, I appreciate that, but all this being said, I could have easily cast Luis Guzman in the role, and I think it would have been a winner, or they would have also realized the vision I was attempting. But anyway, I think we should move on. So those are the corrections. Let us get our first ad break out of the way, Tom, and then we need to dive headfirst in the deep end, because this is a lot to unpack this episode.
Okay, yes, let's do that.
Alrighty, we will be back in second or three.
Hey, Ted Mills here. Again. With the world as it is now, it's important you ask yourself if you have enough boxes in your life. I know I sure don't, and I own a box store. Ted Mills Box Store is its name. I'm Ted Mills. It's my store. We deliver now, so... Hey, that's a new thing we're doing. I'm doing. Delivering boxes to your house, or business, or both, just not neither. In my Honda, it's a good car, so uncertainty in the world got you down. Buy a box, put stuff in it. Stay organized. That's a good thing to be. 10 Mills Box Store, now delivering. In my Honda, because boxes will always serve a purpose, no matter what tomorrow brings.
And welcome back to Cast That Movie, episode 7, I believe. We're already up to 7.
We got quite a few. Hey, is it just me, or should we be worried about Ted? I do think he's getting more depressed in each one of his ads.
Dude sounds a little down. He could use a yoo-hoo, I think, or something.
Yeah, it's something. All Well, right. poor Ted.
Or Ted. Anyway, let us go now to a segment we have regularly, which is called Apropos Casting News. Casting News, Tom. We're going to talk about some casting news.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
I like it.
I like it too. Hey, Tom, have you seen Tiger King?
Me and the wife watched it like the day it aired. It came out even before. I think it took about a week for it to catch on. So yes, I'm familiar with the Tiger King.
Okay, and enjoy it, did you?
It was I think I appreciate it more now that it's caught on, and as everyone catches on to the fuckery. The first episode itself threw me for a loop. I was like, what am I watching?
Right.
Like, what is this? And it even got to the point where I went down rabbit holes after the first episode and really started the wiki things because I wasn't sure where the documentary was going to go, to kind of really learn a lot about it. And actually, one of my online friends has been to that zoo years ago.
Ew.
Mm-hmm.
Was he there when the arm got bitten off?
It was she, and no, she was not.
Oh boy. Yeah, I watched it after it had started to go viral. And it was. I have a different approach than you. I did not want to have anything spoiled for me, so all of it I learned as the documentary progressed. But yeah, it was a pop culture moment, entertaining for what it was, and now it appears they are turning it into a limited series. I don't know that they have a Netflix and network attached as of yet, but they do have a star. They have a star.
I will say, I will think that it would be Netflix because Netflix had the. I don't know. I would assume that they have some rights and things like that based upon the fact that they have the documentary. I would think that it would have to go through Netflix.
You would
but
think.
I could be wrong. Okay, so who's the star?
So the star, playing one Carol Baskins.
Yep.
Carol Baskins is Saturday Night Live's Kate McKinnon.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, you cannot go wrong there, right?
No, I one of my favorite reoccurring sketches that they've had has been her as the person that's either involved in the paranormal or the aliens, the white trash.
Yep.
And I could really see her leaning on that particular character for Carol Baskins.
Funny too, an observation I had, because I still try to watch SNL fairly regularly, and I still enjoy it from time to time, especially depending upon who's hosting, often plays a big part of that. But they don't do reoccurring sketches to the extent it seems that they used to. That is one that I can think of that you mentioned is that Kate McKinnon character. But aside from that, there's maybe only a handful of other reoccurring sketches that they do nowadays. A lot of them are kind of one-offs and one-shots and, digital shorts and songs and stuff like that. Can you think of any besides that, not counting Weekend Update characters and that ilk?
Not in recent times. That really seemed to go away when Bill Hader left.
Mm-hmm. And Fred Armisen.
Because they had a lot of when that group.
The Californians.
You could take the 4-4. So what's really funny about the Californians, real quick, is Fred Armisen is such a historical and detail nut that actually those are real directions.
Oh, sure.
So that whole kind of crew when Christian Reg, when Fred Armisen, when Bill Hader, when that kind of crew left and this new crew came in. I can't think of anything, and I think that's why one of the things I loved about the the Eddie Murphy episode was that they brought back old characters of his. But yeah, I think part of it is because it's much like Jimmy Fallon. People aren't watching Saturday Night Live like as they used to. They're catching the funny bits on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah. They're getting little tastes of it here and there instead of actually sitting down at 11:30, 10:30 Central on a Saturday night and watching it start to finish. Myself, I often, when I do watch it on Hulu the next day, commercial free. But anyway, a little bit off track there. A little bit of an SNL side road we went down there, but Kate McKinnon as Carol Baskins. And then obviously the role that everybody wants to know who is going to play that part is Joe Exotic, certainly the focal point. The names that I've heard, a couple names I've heard bandied about. First off, a guy who's basically said he won't do it, but has been mentioned, is David Spade, understandably, because of Joe Dirt, kind of a similar style character.
Yep, he won't do it. And he basically has said that if it's not an Adam Sandler project, he doesn't really want to do it. He's basically retired from acting. Yeah. He only does it because he likes to hang out with his friends and make movies with his friends.
Yeah, go on vacation with his buddies. Yeah, make terrible, terrible, terrible movies.
Yep.
But the other names, most prominent names that I've heard, and you can add any that you might have heard, the two specifically are Dax Shepard and Eddie Norton.
I could see Eddie Norton doing it. I really, really could. Those are the ones that I've heard as well.
Okay.
I worry about Eddie Norton doing it. I think, while he's succeeded in a lot of things, he's also notorious for being very controlling on set.
Yeah, very difficult to work with and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes. So as much as I would love to see Edward Norton do it, if he could keep himself in check, I would say yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think, I like that. I do like those two names. I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. The other person that I could think of is down in Eastbound?
Right. Danny.
Yes, Danny McBride.
Danny McBride. Yeah. I have actually. Yes. You're right. I have seen him mentioned too. I don't know, but then it just looks like it's another, Danny McBride character. I think you might lose some of the Joe Exotic. He doesn't sound a thing like him either, so there's that.
No, there is that, but I think if they could get him to lose some weight for the role, I think he would be stellar.
Yeah. Okay, well, so that's something to keep an eye on. The argument can be made you need this. I mean, wasn't the documentary miniseries enough? I would say probably, but because you got a talent like Kate McKinnon, it at least makes it something worth keeping your eye on. But my hopes are tempered that it's going to be worth watching.
My hopes are tempered, and I think it's a little too soon because they have reopened the investigation into Carol Baskin's husband.
Right.
So I would like to see where that goes, because I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I mean, you talk to a lot of people. She was suspect number one. They just couldn't prove anything.
Right.
And I think that eventually they might wear her down, or at least get something out of her at some point. That
I don't know. I don't know. She's a special kind of crazy.
She is a special kind of crazy, but they might find something. So I know they want to jump on it right now because it's viral and get going. But with Voldemort going on, they're not going to make anything for a while.
Right.
So hopefully, what would be the best gem in the world would be that case gets broken open while they're in production.
Yes. It would make for a great sequel to the documentary, if nothing else.
100%.
All right. Well, that's casting news for this episode. Let us move on now to our recast of the episode. And again, the whole episode is centered on one project. But in the recast, of course, we go back in time and we try to fix. And there's so much to fix here. What went wrong? Yeah, there's so much to fix here. The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, God. All right.
Tom, tell us here. Just tell us what we need to know about the Island of Dr. Moreau.
So I'm going to get into some of this now, and it's going to be some of the later stuff, and then I'm going to get into in the Dream Project the full-on story. What you need to know is that the Island of Dr. Moreau was originally the dream project for one Richard Stanley. who was kind of an unknown director. He had done some music videos, some other things, and he had actually ties to some of this here. So he wrote this whole thing up, spent 4 years wanting to do this, wanting to make this movie, and he really wanted Marlon Brando because there's some some connections there, and we'll get into that in the Dream Project.
And also, who doesn't want Marlon Brando just out of sheer curiosity? And it's a surefire way for your project to get some major attention, for good or bad, I guess. But anyway, continue.
So while this was going on, there were other directors that wanted it, so he had to go, and he was able to secure Brando. So they got Marlon Brando and they got Bruce Willis to be involved, and they got James Woods. And they got this location, which is Cape Tribulation in Northeast Australia, because once Stanley got Marlon Brando to say yes, like the studio was like, yeah, here we go, we got this. It was really cool. I mean, the special effects, he got Stan Winston, who's the monster designer behind the Terminator and the Predator films. So yeah, Bruce Willis was super excited to work. So he was going to play Edward Douglas, the UN, and James Woods was going to play Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Well, Willis had to drop out. We'll talk about that. So then New Line was going to get him with Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer was like, I'll do it, but I need, I got things going on, so I need the filming schedule to be cut. So there was nothing he could do but agree, because that's the studio wanted. So then they decided to replace James Woods with Val Kilmer, and then they needed to replace the James Woods as Dr. Montgomery. So they got Rob Morrow from television series Northern Exposure. And then there was a storm on the island, really bad storm. So Rob Morrow left very early because of stress, and they got Lupin from the Harry Potter movies to come in and do it on short notice. Marlon Brando had a personal thing going on, we'll get into. Val Kilmer had a personal thing going on, we'll get into. It was insane. And
I mean, we should clarify that Lupin is not his name. His name is David Thewlis.
There, I couldn't pronounce his last name, so you got it. He's a Thewlis.
David Thewlis.
Who's been in a lot of things, and he's very talented. I
love David Thewlis.
And while this was going on, other actors wanted to go because nothing was what it seemed. By day 3, Stanley was out and Frankenheimer was in. And under Frankenheimer, as I said earlier, they were already over budget. The budget was now approaching $70 million, and a total disaster was going to happen by day 3. But Frankenheimer used the studio's desperation to his advantage, successfully demanding a hefty fee and a 3-picture deal in exchange for him coming in. So, being well known as one of the last old-style Hollywood directors, Frankenheimer's guff directorial approach was very radically different from Stanley's, who was very much like, hey, we're making a dream project, doing something very cool. He alienated everybody right off the bat. Then he and Brando decided to have the script completely changed, and to the point where Brando was having script changes to his lines every day, and actually had an earpiece in. So during the movie, you hear Marlon Brando deliver his lines like this, and there's a very specific cadence to how he's talking. It's because they are feeding him his lines while they're filming. Val Kilmer did not want to be upstaged by by Brando. So there was weeks lost because Val Kilmer wouldn't come to the set before Brando was there, and Brando refused to show up before Val Kilmer showed up to the set. Meanwhile, poor Thuis is, to quote him, we all have different ideas of where it should go. I even ended up improvising some of the main scenes with Marlon. Thuis went on to rewrite his character personally, which got on Marlon Brando's nerves. This was just a freaking disaster. Due to so many problems and everything like that, the location shooting was eventually stretched from 6 weeks to 6 months. Yes. And people say that the atmosphere of the production became a mirror for the plot as more and more, as the thing went on more and more, and as the creatures are de-evolving in the movie, so were the actors and producers and everyone on set. And it was all just hammered on by this authoritarian way that Frankenheimer was running things.
And so eventually they were like, fuck it, let's just have a manimal orgy.
Pretty much. We'll get into that at the end. But yeah, what was the original dream project, what Stanley wanted, and what we got were two very, 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 very different things. Now, what's really interesting is that the film was met, it says a 24% of Rotten Tomatoes. The film grossed only $49 million wide on a reported $40 million budget. But we know that by day 4, they're already $70 million in. And the shooting went on from 6 weeks to 6 months. So some estimates have this at somewhere around $100 to $150 million budget by the end of it, for them only to recoup $49 million.
And that's insane, silly money in 1996 for a budget. I mean, that's your AAA, Steven Spielberg, type level projects. And this was not that ever. It was never supposed to.
Ever. So I will get into more on that when we get into the dream project, but that's what you need to know. So for the recast, we have decided that we're going to go off of Frankenheimer, since Frankenheimer pretty much took over from day 4. Mm-hmm. So who do you have as directing this shit show?
Ooh, all right. Shit's getting real. Okay. Mm-hmm. Diving right in. Okay, so all right. So there's 2 different ways you could kind of go with this based on where it ended up. Now, it's a self-serious movie, right? Kind of a similar, I would argue, similar issues that our film last week. I call them films, but our shit show last week, Ballistic X versus Sever. A bad movie that takes itself super serious is hard to watch. So you could go the route of, making it more self-aware and less, whatever. Or you could just go overboard with the gruesome and the gross and just try to really make it gritty, raw, and disturbing. Like, this wasn't disturbing. It was silly when it was trying to be, I guess, deep. I don't know. But I picked a director that I think could really disturb us with this content. He's proven that he can work very well with wigs or animal get-ups, things like that. And he also has a horror background that I think would have really been something that this movie could have benefited highly from, and like re-envisioning it. I picked Peter Jackson.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna say there's a third road here. To the 2 that you brought up, which is
slapstick comedy.
That's why I got Kevin Smith.
No, Dr. Moreau.
Oh, Dr. Moreau. Your vivisections are so funny. I'm going to say, knowing what they went off of, and that there was 4 years, and that people really enjoyed the script, and you had a really good thing, I really do think that the studio was trying to save it. So I'm going to go from the point of view of they wanted to keep the script that they had originally, not the ones with all the fucking Marlon Brando rewrites and freaking ad-libbing and improv that they had to do throughout it. And I'm going to bring up a director that I think could do very well in this territory, as he's done some really disturbing, cerebral thriller horror style, especially with Seven, David Fincher.
Yeah, I had considered him. I'll be honest. Okay, yeah, okay. Well, I agree. We both have respectable picks that would have put out a better project. I of that I'm confident.
Very confident.
Okay, so you are going with Fincher as the director. Then who is your titular character? Who is your Dr. Moreau?
Dr. Moreau is this to me was kind of a no-brainer. I really couldn't think of anyone else to land on, especially in the 90s, who could do, I think, creepy and who would have been better than a fat Marlon Brando blob at that point, and could pull off the really, really smart, really, really cerebral, really, really villainous character that Dr. Moreau is, Anthony Hopkins.
Okay, so just tapping into his Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Wow. I just put one and one together here. So you picked for your Dr. Moreau Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
I did not pick Anthony Hopkins. However, our picks have something in common.
Oh, okay.
So the actor that I picked to play my Dr. Moreau is a wildly talented actor that is able, like Hopkins, to do bombast and gravitas, and has a lot of intensity in his performances when he needs to go there. One of the most underrated actors, I think, of all time. I would even go as far to say one of my favorites. And ironically enough, is another actor that
who played Hannibal?
Hannibal Lecter. I went with Brian Cox. Cox.
Brian Cox. Hell yes, dude. I love it. He is underrated as fuck, dude.
Have you seen? I know. We keep going off topic here, but have you seen Succession on HBO yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh dear God, you have to watch that. It is a brilliant, brilliant show. One of the best shows.
I will actually argue that I think Brian Cox was a better Lecter than Anthony Hopkins.
I would argue the same. He creeped me out more. Anthony Hopkins kind of hammed it up a bit more, and it didn't feel as naturally creepy. It was more of a performance for me.
I agree.
All right. Well, this is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you got Brian Cox, who I love. Who do you have as your Montgomery?
Okay, so Montgomery, from my understanding, is basically a protege that kind of goes his own direction of crazy. Would that be a fair?
That'd be a fair assessment. Basically, he was a very he was a brilliant scientist and was kind of demoted down to nothing more than a security guard by Dr. Moreau. Yes. And that causes his own kind of crazy to start doing things on the side. Absolutely.
Like killing bunnies in front of strangers. So I went with an actor that I think could have at the time. He was not as well known at this time, but I think he would have played a great number two to Brian Cox. I went with Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late great.
Okay. I like that. I went with someone that's a little bit different typecast from him, but I could see him being uptight and playing this character more. And again, I'm going with it from the point of view of trying to save the movie. And this guy, I'm hard pressed. He's also underrated. He's usually a guy that comes in like when you need a strong supporting character to play something. He has a lot of different facets to him, but I think he gets overlooked for being kind of boring, which I don't get from him. Ed Harris.
Oh, sure. Love me some Ed Harris. Okay, so Ed Harris is Dr. Montgomery, and then we move now to the David Thewlis role of Edward Douglas, the, I guess, protagonist. If there is one, he would definitely be the only one in this project. Who is your Edward Douglas?
1996, playing a young protagonist. You could not go wrong with Johnny Depp, and that's who I picked.
Okay. All right. Well, I went with an actor that can literally play any role, good guy, bad guy, whatever. And so, a guy that's going to go to this island and is going to see this, these abominations or whatever you want to call them, just the most disturbing visuals that a person can randomly happen upon after going through a major trauma. I think you need to have an element of his psyche cracking a little more than certainly this movie did, I felt. I mean, you get some of that, but it feels forced. So I want an actor that's versatile enough to be a guy you can root for, even as you see him kind of descend into his own kind of madness. I went with Willem Dafoe.
I do like that. I just wonder if he was going to be a little too dark, but we'll get to that. Okay, and finally, who do you have as your cat lady, which was played by Veruca Balk?
It's Aissa. That's
Aissa.
Aissa.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't. The role in this particular Dr. Moreau, I've not seen the 77 version, but in this one, I thought that was a very underutilized role. Just wasn't fleshed out well, and obviously the cat noises that she makes when fighting are just laughable and just whatever. But I wanted to get an actress that I could see having cat enough like features that would add that element naturally. But also is a very talented actress and can do dark. I went with Jennifer Connelly.
Ooh, I do like that. I wanted
when I say cat-like features, I want to be clear. I'm talking about because her eyebrows are very defined. I don't know.
Yes. No. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a great choice. I wanted to make this up to someone that from one of our previous things, one of our females that I had to recast because I really do like her a lot, and I think I have to recast Veruca Balk because we have to. That being said, I do think she was like something I really want to say here is that the supporting cast, Ron Perlman, everybody that was involved, those guys were great. And we're recasting this particular character because we want to have enough, and we have to, even though I would keep her in that role if I could. However, I also thought of another person that could do, I think, cat-like, is Uma Thurman.
Oh, sure. Sure, yeah, I can see that. Okay, well, let's go over our visions, shall we?
Yes, let's. So, director, you had the Jackson, I had the Fincher.
Yeah, it's very, very different. I would say tonally what we would get there. I don't know. I'm trying to. I think David Fincher. Like, sure, this was kind of his. When he started to break out with Fight Club 7. He was kind of establishing that palette for his movies. Mm-hmm. Part of me thinks in 1996 this might have been too big for him.
It's very possible, but also then I have to go on the line. Then Stanley never should have got it either.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's probably true because it didn't work out at all. So I don't know. I don't dislike your pick, but yeah, I'm pretty confident that in 1996 Peter Jackson would have been able to deliver on his vision a little better, considering the scale of the movie. And
yes, and I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you because he did have some. I mean, Peter Jackson. I've seen his old horror movies as well. Mm-hmm. Bad Taste and
oh my God, that is so hard to watch.
I love Bad Taste personally. I love that movie, but yeah, I mean, when you look at a very, very young Peter Jackson in Australia doing that, and again, it's in Australia. That's Peter Jackson's backyard, right. And I think I think Fincher. I think Fincher would be more in line with the book, But given what we got and what we have and what we saw what it was, I think Jackson would have done a better job with it. So I'll give you that one.
Yeah, if I can think of if I could put my finger on one epic style movie that Fincher has done, something that's a giant world he has to, then I'd be more inclined to maybe go your direction. Especially then and even since, he's got very contained worlds, and a jungle setting or whatever. I guess it's not really a jungle, but you know what I mean? This kind of a setting, I can't think anything that I've seen him do that tells me he could pull it off. But
fair enough. Fair enough.
Dr. Moreau, I almost think we have to call a tie because we basically we dip from the same well, which is always a good sign. Sometimes these are easier to pick a winner or loser, but I don't know.
We did went down a very similar well. I do actually going to lean towards yours and give you it.
Okay.
Because you brought up something, and I'd be worried about Anthony Hopkins hamming it up a little bit too much. And I think Cox would play it more straight.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ham it up worse than Marlon Brando did, but yeah, no, that's a good point. And plus, at that point, Anthony Hopkins was a far, far bigger star, whereas Brian Cox still was, I wouldn't say trying to make a name for himself. People knew who he was, but the star power, I think, almost could get in the way of a role like that. I think that's big time what you had with Marlon Brando. I would never say Anthony Hopkins is like a Marlon Brando. I've never heard anything remotely close to that being true. But if it is a win for me, I would say it's a razor thin margin because they are both very good picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I just I like Cox. I really do. I think he's just tremendous. All right, so Montgomery, remind me who you had.
I had Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That's right, and I had Ed Harris.
Yes.
That's tough.
Oh, I'm going to give you that one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one because I'm a huge Ed Harris fan. And it's 1996. Ed Harris is, I want to say that's around Apollo 13 time. So he's definitely, I'm pretty sure he's younger than Brian Cox. I think that he doesn't need to be far younger, but I think just for the roles, it makes sense that the character is younger. I think he's younger enough to make it work. And yeah, I'm a big Ed Harris fan. Yeah, he can play. He's got the range. Philip Seymour Hoffman was still. I mean, this was Twister. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yep. Big Lebowski, Philip Seymour Hoffman, era. So I'll give you Ed Harris on that one. I have no problem with that.
Fair enough. I'm glad to get that because, yeah, I do like an Ed Harris. All right, so going on the Douglas, what did we have for you again? I forgot. I apologize.
Oh, we had Mr. Willem Dafoe.
We had Willem Dafoe, and we against Johnny Depp. That's a tough one because Willem Dafoe as a protagonist is difficult, right?
If you're making a difficult movie, then yes.
Yes, but
and keep in mind, okay, my vision for Willem Dafoe, I think the best Willem Dafoe character that I could liken what I kind of want from his performance here would be his role in Platoon. That's what kind of
that's where
I turned towards as well. Yeah, where he was the protagonist. Charlie Sheen's the protagonist somehow, but he is like this. He's the symbol of good versus Tom Berenger being the Darth Vader, if you will.
No, I get that. All right, I'll give it to you. I will. As much as I think Johnny could play that role well, especially in 1996, right. I do think Willem would have more gravitas and especially if we're going to put him with Brian Cox and Ed Harris. You have even a 1996 Johnny Depp, although be really, really damn good at what he does, I don't know if he could handle the mood switching of the character as much as, and kind of the way that Douglas kind of goes through this journey and somewhat changes his personality through, and I think Dafoe could do that better.
You know what I would say? I would say if this was post Fear and Loathing Johnny Depp, then
100%.
then we'd be talking something else. I think, that turned such a corner for him. But yeah, this is Ed Wood Johnny Depp, gets old fast.
Mm-hmm.
So Aisa, I had Jennifer Connelly, you had Uma Thurman. I'll give you Uma Thurman on that. I like Jennifer Connelly, but Uma Thurman really does work, I think, for either of our visions.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I don't know that I could make an argument Jennifer Connelly would work better for either of our visions.
Right. I think Uma does. And again, I think Veruca is, going back to saying this, I think she was the best choice.
Right.
But Uma, if I had to recast her, Uma would be it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we did it. We re-envisioned the Island of Dr. Moreau, the 1996 crap fest, into something that I am very confident would have looked and been a lot better. But we're not done. We are not done with this movie. We do not say goodbye to the Island of Dr. Moreau quite yet. Because we got an original project that's also based around the island of Dr. Moreau, and we are going to get to that next. So yes, I think it's ad break time, but do not leave because there is so much more. And let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
All right, be back in a sec. Hey, you guys recognize this little ditty? Get that carpet clean and steamed with the pros at Carpet Dudes. Catchy, huh? My name is Jack Jingles, and I wrote that jingle. In fact, I've written more than 20 jingles that have played on major market radio stations all across the US of A. Here's another one. If you're gonna get a divorce, don't give up your rights. Hire Berkshire, Belch, and Bennigan, and we'll jump in the fight. Jingles are all I do, okay? And I do it well. Jack Jingles is my name, promoting your business via 6 to 10 second audio amuse-bouches is my game. Call 1-100-JINGLES today and see what I can do for you. You want a jingle as cool as a pop single? Call 1-100-JINGLES today. Welcome back, folks, to a very special The Island of Dr. Moreau themed episode of Cast That Movie. Now, Tom, I should explain, when I do that voice, when I say The Island of Dr. Moreau, there is a reason behind it. Do you know what it is, perchance?
No, let's hear it.
Okay. All you have to do is watch the theatrical trailer for The Island of Dr. Moreau, and you will soon see what I'm doing is I'm impersonating the guy that says the title in the trailer, and he says it just like that. Now, this is back in the days when movie trailers had, a narrator tells you what happens throughout the course of the movie, the in a world kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he ends it with The Island of Dr. Moreau. So that's what that's about, just to give that a little context, because I can understand if it was getting annoying to people that had no idea what I was trying to even accomplish there. Anyway,
go on.
Anyway, it is time for us to play our favorite game. Is This Where Are They Now? A game wherein Tom and myself each pick a obscure celebrity from the past who is no longer, I guess, a known entity in the entertainment field, and we tell a story about what happened to that person. And then the other one of us has to decide, is this story true or false? Is this really Where Are They Now? Tom, I am going to let you start. I believe I did it first last episode, so I'm going to give you the honor.
Well, I appreciate that. Since we're doing Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, boy.
Are you familiar with an actor called Nelson De La Rosa Martinez?
I am not, but I am very impressed by your commitment to our Island of Dr. Moreau theme for this week. But no, I'm assuming that he has something to do with the Island of Dr. Moreau.
He does. Remember the little guy that basically hung out with Marlon Brando the whole movie?
Is this the one who does the nude scene?
Was he nude?
I thought so. I thought he had a nude scene at some point.
So maybe.
He's the one that does the piano duet with him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's Nelson De La Rosa Martinez.
Okay.
He was a Dominican actor and one of the shortest men of both the 20th and 21st centuries. Measured at 71 centimeters tall, or about 2 feet 4 inches. He got his start in the 1987 Italian horror film called Ratman. Not only was then he became a staple on Venevision's television Super Cerebro Sensational in Venezuela, and later he'd be invited on Dr. Francisco's show Sabadur Gigante, as well as other Univision shows. He had a minor role, as you know, in Dr. Moreau, and is said to be the inspiration for both Austin Powers' Mini-Me and Kevin, who accompanies Dr. Mephisto in South Park. He also had a very popular appearance in a video song by Coolio, for the song Coolio by Argentina hip-hop group Aire Coleone and the Baila Ravilas. I can't pronounce any of this shit. Anyways.
You're doing great.
No, I'm not. So anyways, in 2004, he has a few things, but then he started befriending Boston Red Sox pitcher and fellow Dominican Pedro Martinez, who began to take him to playoff games as a good luck charm through the 2004 Major League playoffs, and was often referred to as, quote, Pedro's lucky midget.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Maybe. You have to tell me if this is true or not. He was the main attraction for several circuses, which marketed him as the Guinness World Record holder as the smallest man. Although the organization does not hold that claim. Sadly, he were to pass away from Moped 2. Primary symptoms include extreme proportional short stature as well as distinct facial features. He died at the age of 38 in Rhode Island, and his remains were transferred to the Dominican Republic and buried along the Cisco Nandora Cemetery, where he lay today. Am I telling the truth, or am I bullshitting you?
So where he is that he's dead?
Where he is that he's dead.
That's a new twist to this game. All right, downer. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's true, because why would you end it with him being dead if it wasn't true?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to do something that was involved in this, and I honestly, in these notes, I'm not gonna lie, I went a little, I took the easy route, because I literally had I think I'm on, if I look at my Google Doc and what we're talking on right now, I think I'm on page 16.
Yeah.
So
no, understandable. You did a lot of legwork and research for this episode. I forgive that. But aside from that, I didn't know that he was a lucky charm midget or something to Pedro Martinez. Wow, how far we've come. That's not okay anymore.
Yeah.
But
Pedro's lucky midget.
That's terrible.
Isn't that awful?
That's awful, and that's too bad he's no longer with us. But yeah, I mean, he left his mark on pop culture more than you and I have done. So
absolutely.
And yeah, I can see the inspiration with the South Park characters. The Mephisto's obviously based off of Dr. Moreau, right? I mean,
yes,
it's
absolutely.
a Marlon Brando-esque character. Okay, all right. Well, I guessed right. Cool. I have one too, and mine also is not terribly long.
Okay.
Hey, do you remember the movie Napoleon Dynamite?
I do remember the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Do you remember Pedro?
I do remember Pedro.
All right. Well, Pedro was played by an actor named Efren Ramirez. And Efren Ramirez did some minor TV and film roles up until 2012. This is post-Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay.
And after the failure of the Napoleon Dynamite animated series in 2012, he then retired from acting and bought a 25-acre horse ranch outside Salado, Texas, with his now husband, Felipe Pascual. Efron graced the screen once more in 2017 as a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race in a cowboy-themed episode, of course. Now, speaking with Entertainment Weekly in 2018, Efron said his iconic role as Pedro was both a blessing and a curse, but he wouldn't change a thing because nothing makes him happier than waking up each morning, having his morning coffee with Felipe, and spending the day tending the horses. Tom, is this true or is this not true?
No, I can't buy that. No.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah, no.
No, he's still acting. In fact, this would have completely been a bust from the first sentence if you would watch a show I've been pushing on you, Perpetual Grace Limited, with the great Ben Kingsley.
Yes.
A show that I recommend even more than Succession or any other show I can think of right now that you really should watch. But he has a small, albeit very key role on that show. So if you need yet another reason, listeners and Tom alike, to watch Perpetual Grace Limited on Epix, Pedro's on there now. But you should watch it for that, as well as about 5,000 other reasons. But anyway, neither of us win this week on Is This Where Are They Now? Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. And then we're still tied, I believe.
Probably. I don't know. I'd have to go back.
I'm keeping score, bitch. We're tied.
Oh, well, no, that's great. That's great. It's a game, so there should be a scorekeeper. All right. Well, now it's time to move into our original project segment of Cast This Movie. And for the original project, we've heavily teased it already, but it is essentially a telling of the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau, a dramatization wherein we are going to pick actors to play various key figures in both the lead up and the execution of this utter shit show. And I am sure, as the Earth is round, that you have more that you would like to add to give us context here.
Yes. So I'm going to take two sources here that I got a lot of my information from. And I don't, because I really had to do a lot of digging. And some of the stuff I kind of know just from various different sources. But for this particular one, I want to give a really huge shout out to Robin Colley of the Telegraph UK, which did a amazing interview with Stanley. As well as the documentary Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. Okay, so I'm going to spout a lot of exposition here. Follow me if you can, but I think it's fascinating. I'm going to open with the line from Robbie Collins' article, or his interview. It's the same Hollywood story that's been told hundreds of times before. 1 minute, you're the director of a prestigious multi-million-dollar adaptation of a classic novel starring two of the biggest actors in the business. The next, you're disguised in a hooded cloak and a latex dog mask, destroying the set with a fire axe and a can of petrol after having been sacked 3 days into the shoot. That is like the most encompassing line ever, paragraph ever.
Wow.
So, yeah. So Richard Stanley was 29 years old at the time, and he had 4 years in planning this. And the original script, was supposed to be a very dark, satirical update to the Wells story. A very different tone. And, Stanley, here's what he had in his early career to kind of give you guys an idea. His first film was called Rites of Passage. It was a 10-minute short. He did a lot of other shorts, including Incidents in the Expanding Universe, Hardware, and then he started doing a lot of music videos. And it was featured, his mainstream breakout was he started doing, in the film Hardware, he had Iggy Pop show up, he had Carl McCoy show up, he had Lemmy show up. And then he did this 1992 horror film called Dust Devil, which was really, really good. And so he started really working on this dream project of his. And where the tie came in was in Heart of Darkness. The inspiration for Mr. Kurtz, not Colonel Kurtz, as it is in the film version, Apocalypse Now, but in the book version, his grandfather was the inspiration for the writing of that. And that's what he intended to lean on with Brando. He's like, I'll get Brando, because Brando was a huge fan of the book. If I tell him that I'm related to the guy his character was based on, I can do this. But he was still worried about it because Roman Polanski was trying to get his version done. Was trying to get in on it. So he was so paranoid, he hired a warlock named Skip out of England to come over and do blood rites into his arm on the drive to meet Marlon Brando, trying to get him to somehow connect him, the director, and Marlon Brando, director, and the film all together, that they had all three be together for the film to succeed. Jesus, like, this is how paranoid he was about doing this. So a few months before filming were to happen, this is where the shit show went down. Bruce Willis dropped out because Demi Moore was divorcing him. To replace him, New Line got Val Kilmer, who, while he was getting ready to go over to do the shoot, found out via the fucking current affair that his ex-wife was going to sue him for a shit ton of money. Then Marlon Brando's 25-year-old daughter, Cheyenne, hung herself. All while the sets were being built. All while everything was getting done. All while everybody was trying to get in there. So when Kilmer said, I'll do it, but I can't be on set a whole lot, I got to deal with this lawsuit, they cut it back. They got rid of James Woods, gave him Montgomery, and then brought in this Rob Morrow of one of your favorite shows, Northern Exposure.
I've never seen it.
Oh, I thought you were a fan.
No.
So then...
Too white bread for me. That and Wings. I just couldn't.
Yeah, Wings was too white for me as well, and I'm a pasty fuck. So then, meanwhile, other shit started to happen. When they got on set, Stanley's personal assistant was bitten by a venomous spider. His warlock became hospitalized with a bones disease and became infected by a flesh-eating parasite. His mother's house was struck by lightning 3 times. And then Marlon Brando, because of his daughter's death, was hanging off the fucking wasn't leaving his trailer. And the nightly rehearsals, Kilmer was running everything. Then, as soon as they began, when they started getting ready to actually do shoots, a fucking hurricane came through, and Moreau contacted his agent and said, "Get me the hell out of here. I can't fucking do this. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown." So Moreau had to leave. So then that's when they brought him through. And, at one point during the second day of filming, Kilmer was so fucking just over everything at this point, already day 2, that he just sat on the ground and refused to get up because Brando wasn't coming out. So at this point, New Line, who were getting calls every day, said, done, he's out. He can't run this. Well, it gets weirder. One of the people at New Line just had a feeling that Stanley would try and sabotage the film because it was his baby and he'd gone so crazy. That they wanted to get him on a flight back to America. Well, when the plane landed, he wasn't on the plane. So now they're freaking out the entire time the filming's going on that the director, who's pissed off about this, is somehow lurking about, which he kind of was. He rented a fucking shanty and was just kind of hanging out and getting vibes from all this. Faruqa Balk was like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm leaving, this is a shit show. And New Line threatened her agent and said, we will make sure she never gets another job. So then, from that point on, Frankenheimer shows up, along with Thuis, and the typical workday Marlon Brando would arrive at about 9 a.m. and go directly to his trailer. Then Frankenheimer would follow him in, where they would do rewrites. And then after lunch, they would come out and start filming. And then Marlon, okay, the whole white face thing, that was Brando. I'm going to do that. And he never appeared without that midget, without who I mentioned in our cast.
Right.
Smallfoot. And do you know the scene when he has the ice bucket on his head? It's because he wouldn't take it off.
For no reason.
He just was walking around with his ice bucket on his head, so he wasn't going to take it off. So they decided to integrate it into the scene. Well, Kilmer is getting absolutely just fucking out of control. Frankenheimer, to quote him, said, "Even if I was directing a film called The Life of Val Kilmer, I wouldn't have that prick in it." And to Val Kilmer's credit, he apologized to Stanley years later for his behavior and said, you know what, I was in such a terrible place, and I never should have done those things to you. I didn't know how to react to what was going on. I was so bitter and angry and out of my tits. Mm-hmm. So he apologized. And that is something I will say about Val Kilmer. As he's aged over the years, he has really apologized for his bullshit over the years and what he did.
He has, and he's dealing with throat cancer still, right, too. So there's probably some retrospection going on there. But yeah, no, good for him to realize that he had some bridges to mend or whatever.
So, well, with all this horse shit going on, New Line forgot about Stanley. And after a month of his disappearance, a group of extras found him living in the jungle. Where he'd been living off of yams, cerveza, and coconuts, along with his substantial personal stash of marijuana. Seizing the opportunity for mischief, Stanley concocted a plan with the extras to get back on set. Even though his discovery would surely result in his forfeiture of his severance pay, which I'm pretty sure he lost when he didn't get on the fucking plane. So they stole him a dog hybrid costume and dressed him up. And he arrived just in time for the filming of the violent finale, in which Moreau's creations overthrow the island and put their master's compound to torch. As such, he spent the night destroying the very thing he built for years. And he said, I did find it reassuring and psychologically helpful in the long term, being able to tear down that set.
Wow.
He absolutely hates, Frankenheimer was just a disaster as well. The thing was just out of control, and it was a laughing stock. And again, it cost him so much money. Although, as we mentioned earlier, I didn't realize this when I put two and two together. Seven was a New Line movie and made them a shit ton of money, which is probably the only reason why they didn't go bankrupt.
Right.
Yeah. So, this is out of control. Just out of fucking control. And so that's where we end up. And this is why this is our dream project. I want to see this. And as I explain it to Joad, like I said, we don't normally talk. But as I was explaining this to Joad, just all the shit show that was going on, we're like, this needs to be a fucking movie. So Joad, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to rest my voice. Tell me who we're recasting in the Dreamcat project.
Sure, and just to piggyback off of what you just said there, it is true. We generally don't need to discuss the original project ahead of time because it's known entities to both of us. You know, the Pink Floyd movie, the Montreal Screwjob, you know, Brat Pack. Like we know who these people are. We know the general story of it. But we had another project in mind that we were going to do for this episode that we are now going to do for the next episode, and we will tease that at the end. And we were ready to do that and had done our research, but Tom reached out to me and said that he had gone through this insane rabbit hole and that this story was so over the top bonkers that it has to be made into a movie. It's like Tropic Thunder on, you know, steroids and acid and, you know, crack, you know, all the things. Like it is insanity. It's got inflated egos and terrible childish behavior and backstabbing and just, I mean, it's an amazing story. So what we're going to do is, as always, we're going to pick a visionary who we feel could bring this to the screen, and then we're going to, of course, cast Richard Stanley and John Frankenheimer, the directors, who are extremely key components to this story, as are Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. So we're going to cast them as well, and then more periphery characters that weren't a huge part of it for very long, but still would be fun for us to cast. We're also going to cast Bruce Willis and Rob Morrow just for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
So yes. I am ready if you are ready to dive in. And if you would like, if you want to rest your voice a little bit longer, you are a trooper, by the way. You're doing great. You're soldiering through. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
I will start with mine to give you a little bit more time to rest your voice and tell you, first off, who I want at the helm here. Now, as you describe it, and as you described it when we decided to go forward and make this an original project, this sounds like almost so chaotic that you could make parallels to like a war story, a war movie. Just, I mean, obviously the stakes are lower, but just, again, the chaos and unpredictability and, you know, collateral damage and shrapnel flying around figuratively. I would want somebody to shoot this. Not there's a difference in modern war movies. You know, you have, you know, the Spielberg type Saving Private Ryan, that kind of thing. But then you also have like Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, you know, more raw, grittier, sleeker, and smaller scaled, one could say, more focused. So I'm going with that director. I'm going with Catherine Bigelow as my director to bring this story to life. I think she could inject the insanity of it. You know, I love me a female director taking over a project about fragile male egos. I've done it before. I will probably do it again. I am choosing her.
So you already talked about how this is very Tropic Thunder-esque.
Yes.
And because of that, and because there's a dark humor to all of this, I put this in the hands of the guy that did Tropic Thunder because I actually enjoy his dark humor. I'm going to let Ben Stiller direct this.
Wow. Ben Stiller gets a shout out 2 weeks or 2 shows in a row, I should say. Okay, interesting. So you are going more the humor route.
No, have you seen like Permanent Midnight, where it's a serious but it's dark? Ben Stiller can do serious, and I think he can direct serious, but he can give it a severe dark undertone to it and make it a dark humor. I mean, this is black comedy. This it's not going to be like a ha-ha funny. Like, this is going to be like, oh my god. Like, I really want him to accentuate the craziness of what was going on.
Okay, well, so who is Ben Stiller's leading man then? Which I would argue Richard Stanley to be. in this story. Because I think I would hope in both of our versions we're spending a lot of time with Richard Stanley and his descent into the mouth of madness. Who is your Richard Stanley?
I'm going to give this to someone fairly fresh who hasn't had a lot going on since his massive success on the HBO TV show, Kit Harington.
Okay. Well, I struggled with this pick a bit because, my knee-jerk was, oh, this is a Nicolas Cage role. But then you find out it's, you can't cast anybody over 40.
Yep.
And even that's pushing it a little bit. So couldn't do that. Then I wanted to do Ezra Miller, but then Ezra Miller, we can't cast anymore because of what happened there.
Yep.
So maybe in time, if Ezra Miller finds a way to apologize in the appropriate way, we'll see. But for now, nope, no Ezra Miller. So I ended up resting on a guy that can do intense and the crazy, but can also play, I think, the timid. I went with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I like that. Okay. All right. So then I think the next line would be Frankenheimer, I think is what we decided to go with.
Yes.
Next. Okay.
Yes.
So who's your Frankenheimer that's going to be replacing your Jake Gyllenhaal?
So Gyllenhaal, can play that guy with a screw loose, type character. I get for lack, you know what I'm saying there. Frankenheimer, on the other hand, as you said in the description, is more old school Hollywood, more refined, more, what Hollywood used to be, and that screamed to me to get Robert Redford out of retirement. So Robert Redford would be my Frankenheimer.
I like that. Okay, so Frankenheimer to me, it was an older man, and there is actually some of these things I like to go with people that look like them, but in this case, don't necessarily. But I actually, for some that's going to be really authoritarian, very controlling. Kurt Russell.
Okay. Well, then I think this one is the actors on this were so fun for me. So I'm anxious to dive in, and we're going to start with Marlon Brando. I'm really curious who is playing Marlon Brando in this thing for you.
I don't know if you're going to like my pick, but I like my pick because I think Marlon Brando's a tough one. Outside of, I'm not going to pick De Niro, but De Niro, is the last person to really be able to successfully play anything that Marlon Brando has done.
Okay.
That being said, because I'm going with Stiller, because I'm going with some kind of crazy, and I like this actor, and I think he does do dark, Mickey Rourke.
Okay, well, I do well with an actor that also can do very dark, and I think, Marlon Brando at this point, we've established, had a lot going on. He was in the twilight of his career, lost his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's also Marlon Brando, and I'm sure he reminded himself of it every single day. Just the ego of needing to be the last to set, that kind of stuff. So I need somebody that can kind of juggle all those airs and all those facets, but you can tell there's just something off there. And then who could also, because I in my version anyway, we would be on set. He would be in these costumes. We would need to see him doing a Marlon Brando impression. Very few people can do that. Certainly, even fewer that have any sort of resemblance to Marlon Brando. The only guy that ticked all those boxes for me was Vincent D'Onofrio.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't even think of him. That's really good. Okay, so who's your Brucey? Okay. Who's your Bruno?
No. We're going. Let's do Val Kilmer next.
I'm sorry. Kilmer. Okay, who's your Kilmer?
Okay, because I got to get this one out.
Get it out, dude.
So as much as you might like my Vincent D'Onofrio, this one might take you a second to digest. Okay. What I wanted to do first off was I wanted to give this role to his son, Jack Kilmer.
Yeah, sure.
who is an actor now, right?
Yep.
And a pretty decent one from what I've seen. The only problem is, and I don't have her name in front of me, but she's an actress as well. His mom, Val Kilmer's ex-wife, Whaley, I think was her last name. Um, yeah, I believe she's British. Anyway, he looks more like his mom than he looks like his dad, than he looks like Val Kilmer. And that was distracting to me. And there's another actor who looks a lot like Val Kilmer. And I say actor, but he hasn't really acted in, oh God, I want to say 15 to 20 years since he's been an actor. When he was a child actor on the most popular sitcom in America. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I'm bringing back Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
He was on my short list.
For real?
For real, he was on my short list.
A big part of it is resemblance, but I don't know. We'll talk about that. But yes, go. Who did you pick? You did not take him then?
I did not. I took someone that I think looks like him, though. I did want him because, having that. I actually took Jason Ritter.
Okay. So, so you went with John Ritter's son.
I went with John Ritter's son. I went with Jason Ritter. I think there's some similarities there between him and Val Kilmer.
Sure. Okay. So now let's get to our Bruce's.
The Return of Bruno. Yeah, let's get to the Return of Bruno because I jumped the gun on that one.
Okay.
That's a Bruce Willis album. That's a deep cut for you guys out there.
Yeah, you went over my head. Anyway.
Yeah, so who do you got for your Brucey?
Oh, I thought you were start because you went second on your Val.
Nope, go ahead. I'm going to let you go.
Okay, you want me to go first? All right, I can respect that. I went with a guy that's not very well known as an actor per se. He's done a lot of bit roles on a lot of shows, specifically a couple movies as well. But he is known to everybody for a commercial series that he does where he plays a character called Mayhem. I'm going with Dean Winters.
Ooh, I like that.
Who I first saw he played Dennis Leary's brother in Rescue Me. I guess he's also had a role on 30 Rock. Never been a fan, and my wife never lets me hear the end of that. But yeah, he's done a lot of he is an actor. He's not just a commercial guy, but that's certainly what people know him for. I think there's enough of a resemblance there. In my film, Bruce Willis wouldn't be a large part that needs A-list talent to sell the thing. He's more of a bit character role, and I think Dean Winters would be ideal for that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it that way. I went with some A-list.
Okay.
I went with someone I think it'd be funny to see him play Bruce Willis. Woody
Harrelson?
I went with Woody Harrelson to be Bruce Willis.
Okay, well, round us out then. Our last pick here is for Rob Morrow, as you mentioned before, from Northern Exposure and Quiz Show, and that's about it. Who is your Rob Morrow?
I tried to cast him last time. I'm going to try and push him through this time. Paul Rudd.
Okay. I also went with somebody. I'm guessing you saw some kind of resemblance there, if even slight. I went the same route, tried to find somebody that was had somewhat of a resemblance to Rob Morrow. And this guy is known for one TV role specifically, then nothing else until he was cast out of the blue as Shazam. I went with Zachary Levi.
Okay. Oh, man, we have some very different takes on this one.
Yes.
Very different takes. All right. Let's start with the directors.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to you.
You're going to give me that one, huh?
I'm going to give you that one because as much as I like Stiller and I think he could do it, again, this is something that I don't know if he'd retread because really,
yeah,
this is somewhat of a Tropic Thunder retread in a way.
sure.
And I think he'd be worried about the comparisons.
Fair enough. All right, and yeah, I mean, Catherine Bigelow. I think it would be, her two most famous movies. Certainly kind of in the same realm. I don't know if you ever saw Detroit, which was, I think, the movies she did after Zero Dark 30, and Hurt Locker. I liked it a lot. It was a little more divided about basically. It doesn't matter. Anyway, she's versatile enough. I think she could make it work and have an interesting take, and it would be kind of more sobering, certainly, than a Ben Stiller take on it. But hopefully, she could harness, kind of explore new territory and not make it so stone cold sober.
Sure.
Because there needs to be a little twist of if nothing else, pitch black humor. I definitely concede that to you. Okay, so our Richard Stanley picks. Mine was Jake Gyllenhaal, and yours again was
Kit Harington.
Ugh.
Jon Snow. Yeah, I'll give you it. Yeah, Gyllenhaal. Especially if you watch what was that last one? The Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler. Yeah, he can. Doing the descent to the madness is proven with Gyllenhaal. I don't know if that's proven with Kit. Although I would like to think he could. I do think he's a brilliant actor, and I think we'll see more of him.
Yeah, he's a guy I root for, and I hope he's a brilliant actor. But I can't. Of anything I've seen, I can't make that assertion myself.
Absolutely. But I think someone needs to take a chance on him. And much like Robert Pattinson in Cosmopolitan, he deserves that opportunity. So I would have thought this would have been a good one for him. But if you're going to take Jake Gyllenhaal and you're going to put Kit Harington in the same room, I'm going to do the same as I would with B. Arthur and Betty White for that particular role. I'm going to go with Jake Gyllenhaal because it is proven.
Sure. Okay, so then our John Frankenheimer Schmitz.
Yep.
I had Robert Redford.
And I had Kurt Russell.
And you had Kurt Russell. I'll give you Kurt Russell. I think Kurt Russell and Jake Gyllenhaal would make a more interesting clash of style. He's more electric, I think. I've never honestly been a big Robert Redford fan. Again, I was going more off the old Hollywood look, but
sure. But you need that intensity that I don't think you get out of Redford.
Sure, that's fair. So yeah, I'll give you Kurt Russell. I'm more than okay with that.
Okay.
Marlon Brando, I am gonna have to fight tooth and nail for my Vincent D'Onofrio.
Done. I'm not even gonna argue with that because Mickey Rourke. No, I think he could do it. I think he could descend in the Marlon Brando craziness.
You have more faith in him than I do. I will say that much.
I will say this. Mickey Rourke is really dependent on if he's in on the project, and I don't know if something like this he would take seriously enough to go all in, like full Mickey Rourke on. Because Mickey Rourke, for what I see of his movies, he's very hit or miss. I'm never kind of like, that was a meandering kind of or a middling Mickey Rourke. Either yes, fucking love it, or oh my god, why Mickey?
Sure.
So yes, I will totally give you yours. It's a safer bet.
Okay. Val Kilmer then.
I like Jason Ritter. I think he's a good actor.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give you Jason Ritter. I didn't even think of him, to be honest with you. And there is enough of a resemblance there. I think he looks more like Val Kilmer than Jack Kilmer looks like Val. Kilmer.
Yes, he does. And I'm sorry, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. If you look at him today, he's not 1996 Val Kilmer. He's 2015 Val Kilmer. He's very portly. He's very portly.
Is he? I haven't seen it. I guess.
Yeah, he's got some of that old man chub on him now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, no, fair enough. Yeah, I'm total. I like Jason Ritter anyway, so I got no problem there. And yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor Thomas would be a roll of the dice.
Very much so. Because you have to be in the whole time.
Yeah. Okay. Now are the two characters that really don't have to be in.
Yep.
Much at all, really. So Bruce Willis. I went with Dean Winters. Remind me what your pick was again on this.
I went with Woody Harrelson.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I would argue Woody Harrelson might be too old to play Bruce Willis in 1996.
Bruce Willis to me always looked old. He's one of those. He's kind of like a Patrick Stewart. He looked old. He looked old in Moonlighting, and he was young. And I would like to see Woody play Bruce Willis, like his version of Bruce Willis, because I'm sure he's got Bruce Willis stories.
Yeah. No.
I'm gonna tie this one, dude. I'm gonna tie this one.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can't give you, and you can't give me, and that's fine. It's our only one we couldn't concede on so far. We have one left to go here, but that's like I think back to last week, especially wasn't it X versus Sever? I believe we couldn't. It was either that I couldn't remember if that was that or Pink Floyd, but we gave very little. We were both so committed to our own picks, so that hasn't been the case this time. But yeah, that one. We'll stick to our own our corners on that one. Rob Morrow though, Paul Rudd for you, Zachary Levi for me. It's such a minor thing, and I didn't give you Paul Rudd last time, so I'll give you Paul Rudd. I think you could have fun with it. It's a small role.
I just imagine him in a hurricane, like freaking out and having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, and neither of them look like overwhelmingly like Rob Morrow. They both look just enough like him to pass. So sure, you can give it to Paul Rudd. That's fine. Fine.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Wow. This was crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think we've done a lot of compelling episodes. I don't know if it's just me and because I'm so fascinated with this, but I think this is one of our more compelling episodes in terms of just everything. And I would encourage people to seek out the documentary. And it is called, once again, Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. Because we may never get this movie, and it deserves to be made a movie. But the story behind this and the batshit, I had to gloss over a lot of stuff. And there was some crazy shit that happened. I mean, you got to remember, Ron Perlman was on set. We didn't even get to that. Someone that keeps popping up in our recast that we talk about, Mark Damascus from Double Dragon and American Iron Chef fame was in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to think Ron Perlman's a very opinionated guy, so he's definitely got to have a takeaway from this whole experience. So
yeah, I mean, there's people in that recasting and stories and things like that we didn't get to, and I again, when I started getting into this and started looking at this and started getting into the documentary, I was like, this needs to be much like Tiger King. This needs to be made into a movie.
All right, well, we did it. We got through our special The Island of Dr. Moreau edition of Cast That Movie. That's awesome. We're not quite done yet, though. We got to go take one more ad break here, and then we have to say our goodbyes proper. So let us go to our final ad break and come back and say said goodbyes. All right, we'll be back in a few.
After a hard day's work, sometimes you might start to smell a little funky in your junkie. Why is this still a thing? We've cured armpit stench, and breath mints have been a thing forever. Why not down there? Well, I say no more. Introducing Yummy Crotch, an all-natural spray for men that'll keep your nether smelling dandy, despite the sweat and sog stuff. Bouquet of flowers? You bet. Fresh cut fruit? Why not? A birthday cake? Oh yeah! You're a modern man, and you deserve to have a Yummy Crotch. Available at most gas stations today. Yummy Crotch will have the ladies, or men, we don't judge, saying,
your crotch smells delish balls.
Yummy Crotch, discover the you never knew.
Don't give me your reasons to stay.
All right, welcome back to Cast That Movie, and we got another one on the books, Tom. Oh, man. We had a blast doing a special The Island of Dr. Moreau themed episode this week.
I just got to say, who would have thought that shit movie would have filled an entire podcast of just fun?
I know, right? The product was terrible, but the story behind it was fascinating. I mean, and it's sad, at least with, all of the chaos and whatever and heart attacks and insanity you had with Apocalypse Now. You had a phenomenal, epic masterpiece at the end. You had similar drama here, and it was not worth anybody's time or effort or pain or misery. But it did, you're right, it ended up all these years later making for a very fun podcast, and I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we decided to spend so much time with this terrible movie.
Me too. Me, rabbit holes is a hobby of mine. I love kind of digging in this stuff, and this was great for me because this is something I didn't know a lot about. So, like I said, most of the stuff that we do, I could do off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. This one, I had 16 pages of notes because I was learning this, and I was like, it can't get any crazier. Holy shit, this is getting crazy. This is getting fucking crazier. So, yeah, this was great for me to spend the 2 weeks in between the podcasts of being able to really dig into and get some really in-depth stuff for it.
Yes. Okay, well, we did tease earlier that what we know we are doing for the next episode. We haven't settled on a recast yet, so watch our Facebook page. We might tease that once we do settle on a project, but we are doing an original project that we originally had in mind to do for this episode before it got taken over so completely and utterly by The Island of Dr. Moreau. Tom, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what is the original project that we are going to be casting and envisioning next episode?
Well, I'm going to put it to you this way. Johnny Carson plus National Lampoon's Radio plus Second City Television equals the origins of SNL.
The origins of SNL. So we are making basically a movie, or coming up with the concept of a movie about the birth of Saturday Night Live, a national institution with some, once again, we have some big names and very, very difficult casting choices to make here, because these are, these are no Bruce Willises. But we're talking, what we got? Gilda Radner,
Lorne Michael,
Chevy Chase.
Yep.
This is.
We got some heavy names.
Names.
I think we're doing Aykroyd as well, aren't we?
We might as well. Let's do Aykroyd. Fuck it.
I think we're doing Aykroyd as well.
Yeah, and of course John Belushi too.
John Belushi, yes.
So that's a challenge and a half. So look out for that in 2 weeks. But I want to thank everybody for listening. We need all the support we can get. So like our Facebook page, like our YouTube channel, like our SoundCloud. Do you like SoundCloud pages? I don't even know.
No, I like SoundCloud, but that's me.
No, can you like it? Can you like it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You can like SoundCloud. Yes, and you can also subscribe. You can also go to the Joad and subscribe as well.
The jodown.blog. Yes, please do. We are happily a part of that as well. And don't forget to check out, if you're a Twin Peaks fan, Tom, you want to plug your other podcasts, now would be the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Jodown and on YouTube, we do podcasts above a convenience store. The owner of the Jodown, Joe Fremming, and I weekly dig into episodes of Twin Peaks. We just finished and uploaded yesterday the first episode of the second season. And in addition to doing that, we talk about a tragedy that was going on at the same time, the Jacob Wetterling kidnapping that we were dealing with, that took place 8 miles from where we lived.
Wow. All right. Well, Voldemort is still with us, folks. You have plenty of time, many of you, to find something new to discover or something new to dive into, or I'm sure you know people that need to find something new to discover and something new to dive into. This is episode 7, so we got I'd say about 14 hours worth of content on this podcast alone, and we're gonna keep making them as long as we can keep Voldemort at bay. We're gonna keep churning these out. So thanks for listening, and we love you all. Stay safe, and we will see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.